So we all have words to live by, a phrase that gets us going or helps us in a difficult moment or just makes us feel better. We might remember some of those phrases today in particular as we think about our mothers or grandmothers or people who have taught us along the way. One of the phrases that I live by has been offered not by my mother, but by the soccer commentator Roger Bennett, who once said, "There is a God, and she likes pie." This reminds me of my vocation because that statement is, of course, theological, but it is also material in that when I stand at the counter of the pie store on Watchung, I can hear Handel's Messiah playing in the back of my head. It is an amazing feeling. It is also nostalgic for me because I remember those wonderful days. Stacy and I were talking recently about the things that we can't believe our parents let us do when we were 11 or 12 years old. One of those things for me was my mom giving me a few coins and letting me walk down the street, get on a bus, take a train, and go to a soccer game with my friends and stand out on the terraces on a Saturday afternoon. I have a feeling it was mostly because she enjoyed those few hours without me there. She didn't tell me that at that particular moment in my life. Nevertheless, I remember standing in the drizzle with my friends on the terraces with a 50-pence coin in my pocket that would automatically be splurged on a halftime pie. What memories. Except I now know from my own children that not everybody, to my shock, likes pie. They do not like the mixture of savory and sweet, crunchy and soft, all in the same dish. It doesn't make sense to have all of these things going on all at the same time. And so the Bible is like a pie. First of all, there are different ingredients from different places, and the book of Genesis is a great example of this. We have a whole bunch of sources, not sauces, sources that have been brought together to make a whole, and they aren't consistent. In fact, sometimes they are right next to each other, and they actually contradict each other, savory and sweet, all in the same bite. The second chapter of Genesis has the end of the creation of the universe in 7 days, and on the seventh day God saw that it was good. And then it immediately launches off into another creation story where humans are made first rather than last, and how can this be? In Genesis 1, the 7 days of creation story is from what we now call the priestly source, or just P. Elements of the Hebrew Bible that focus both on the origins of the world and the ritual sites of the nation of Israel, among many other things, come from the P source, the priestly source, which starts with the 7-day creation and then is interrupted by another source, the J source, who is more interested in the relationships between humans and the earth, humans and the soil, where we get our Adam and Eve narrative. And we don't hear much of anything from P again until we get to Noah and the flood. The Bible is like a pie because you've got multiple ingredients that exist right next to each other and are mixed with each other, and they don't necessarily fit well together all the time. And some regard, like me, the whole as truly beautiful and wonderful, and some are not so sure, right? Some really can't decide whether that pie is worth getting sentimental about because it's got a flood story. God saw everything that was good, and then what? It wasn't? The editors of Genesis look at the P source and they think, you might need some bits in the middle. Some other ingredients to explain why these two things can go together. Everything is good until it isn't. And the Bible is also like pie because you've got grandmother's ingredients in there too, the stuff of your ancestors. In this case, going back to at least the 20th century BCE. That's a lot of ancestors. This narrative, the Noah and the flood story, is much more expansive than just a story about a guy and his family. It is about the history of the world, amended from other narratives from other cultures that also have a flood story as a core part of their orientation to the world, from, like I said, at least the 20th century BCE. The Mesopotamians, the Sumerians, all Near Eastern cultures all had a great story of creation and a great flood, out of which humanity emerges and is recreated and emerges with an understanding of what the cosmos is like. In almost every culture, there is a mythology of creation and a story of recreation, the manner in which things come to be, that also tries to take into account our sense of violence and greed and error, in part because humans seem to grasp that both God said that the creation is good, and yet there seems to be a glitch, that everything is wonderfully and beautifully made, and yet how come people steal from each other or try to dominate each other? How would you explain that? How would you begin to chart out a history of nearly everything that has come to pass, the creation of everything, how everything seems to fit so neatly together, the rising of the sun each and every morning, and the changing of the seasons, and the winds that blow just so, and the elements of the earth, the whole thing put together, and then try to explain how we, as human beings who are capable of artistry and creativity and kindness, can be the way that they are. Life is like pie, because there's usually something in it that you don't necessarily want. The ancients, like us now, wrestle with the human ability to prosper with each other and also commit acts of violence against each other. There is a ton of wordplay happening in these chapters in Genesis, related to the characters and how they're in relationship to each other. Noah's name, the name Noah, spelled consonantly in Hebrew, taking the O and the A out, transliterated into English, the NH of his name also means comfort. There is comfort present in Noah in these verses as he goes about his business. And he has 3 sons and the sons' wives with him, Ham and Japheth and Shem. And Ham's name transliterated can mean violence, and Japheth's name can mean beauty, and Shem's name can mean prosperity. So you have the universe as conceived by the ancient Hebrews, which comprises of a flat disc-shaped earth with the heavens above and Sheol below, the underworld of the dead below. These 3 are surrounded by a watery ocean of chaos. And in the ark, you have this 3-level Hebrew cosmos in miniature. The ark is 3 stories high, right? The heavens and the earth and the waters beneath with chaos. And the ark, that thing that contains all of humanity, right? All of humanity's violence and beauty and capacity to be prosperous, alongside of God's comfort as represented in Noah, bobbing along on the top of chaos, right? What an image. All of humanity is contained within this ark. All of our violence, all of our capacity to be beautiful and to be beauty and to be prosperous and to offer prosperity to another. All of that held between the chaos of below and the tranquility of the heavens above. And so within this narrative, we also hear that whenever we send out peace towards the heavens through the dove, we find that peace returned to us from the heavens at the very same time that chaos, the waters, seem to pour all around us. For every human being, we know that there is no progress. There is no rainbow without difficulty first. And we know that's real. That isn't to suggest that there is purpose or an overarching design behind the difficulty. Stuff happens. And it is quite apart from Noah's control and ours. But it ultimately leads humanity in all of its beauty and violence and prosperity with the comfort of God alongside to a place of promise. A rainbow of promise. A technicolor promise. I am with you. I am with you in all of your beauty and all of your violence and all of your potential to prosper with each other. And the waters shall never again become a flood of destruction. There is recreation, new possibilities, and hope. This story, if you know where it is in the Bible, right at the start, it is a long way from resolution, right? But everything that comes after this point, everything after, is built upon this promise. I am with you in all your violence and beauty and prosperity. This is not a story about one guy. It is a story of human beings and their Creator, and it is uncomfortable, deeply problematic, violent, chaotic, and also beautiful, covenantal, and brimming with potential. Children, would you please lead us now in worship? Thank you.